Forget what you've seen in the movies.
Hardin's real story is far more complex and terrifying.
This wasn't a man who robbed banks for a living.
He was a killer, plain and simple, and by his own account, he took the lives of 42 men. Today, we're digging into the true story of the man who turned the Wild West into his personal hunting ground.
Born in Texas in 1853, John Wesley Hardin was the son of a Methodist preacher. You might think that would set him on a righteous path, but violence found him early.
The Civil War had just ended, and the world he grew up in was a powder keg of resentment and lawlessness.
At just 15 years old, Hardin committed his first murder.
He got into a fight with a formerly enslaved man named Mage, and after a second confrontation, Hardin shot him dead.
This wasn't a duel at high noon.
This was the beginning of a pattern.
Instead of facing justice, Hardin fled, and so began his life as a fugitive.
For the next few years, Hardin drifted through Texas, working as a cowboy and more often as a gambler. But trouble was his constant companion.
He claimed he only ever killed in self-defense, but his definition of self-defense was incredibly broad.
If he felt insulted, if someone cheated at cards, or if he was simply in a bad mood, his pistols would do the talking. He developed a unique and deadly skill, the border roll, a trick where he'd wear his holsters backward, allowing him to cross-draw his Colt revolvers with lightning speed.
It wasn't for show. It was a tool of his bloody trade.
One of his most infamous crimes happened in Abilene, Kansas, a rowdy cattle town. Hardin was staying in a hotel when a man in the next room started snoring too loudly.
Annoyed, Hardin didn't just bang on the wall. He fired several shots through it, killing the man instantly.
Realizing what he'd done, he jumped out of a second-story window in his nightshirt and fled the town, leaving his guns behind. This wasn't a noble gunslinger. This was a man with a hair-trigger temper and a complete disregard for human life.
Unlike outlaws like Jesse James who robbed banks and trains, Hardin's violence was deeply personal. He often got into altercations with lawmen and soldiers from the Union-backed state police, who he viewed as enemies of the South. His reputation grew with every body that dropped. He became a dark legend, a boogeyman of the Reconstruction era. By the early 1870s, he was one of the most wanted men in Texas, with a bounty on his head. He even led a family feud, the Sutton-Taylor feud, which was one of the longest and bloodiest in Texas history, resulting in dozens of deaths.
In 1874, Hardin's rampage seemed to reach its peak.
On his 21st birthday, he was celebrating in the town of Comanche.
He got into a confrontation with Deputy Sheriff Charles Webb.
Accounts differ, but what's certain is that it ended with Webb dead in the street.
This time, Hardin had killed a respected lawman, and the hunt for him intensified.
He became public enemy number one.
The legendary Texas Rangers